Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Go On 200. This is Yi Qian here. Good to have everyone back again. And to my right, we have our subject matter experts. We have Xiao Qing and Daniel. Woo!
Hi!
Okay, welcome back. Good to see you again. How many times did I say this? Because we really missed you. We had not recorded for a few weeks. But today we have a very interesting topic to talk about. And we have a lot of clients and friends texting us and calling us about this very interesting phenomenon with regards to these instruments called Singapore savings bonds, fixed deposits, sorry, my pronunciation, and of course T-bills. Yes.
Sounds exciting.
So if you have paid attention to the news recently, maybe starting from even from September onwards, articles have popped up saying that they spent 4 hours waiting at the banks queuing up to put their money in fixed deposits.
4 hours? Which bank is this?
UOB?
UOB, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, because I know my mom did that.
I know some queue for 5 hours even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean it can't be done via internet banking in this day and age?
So you can tell the 年龄层, you can tell the demographics. Why are they waiting at the banks? Isn't it very telling?
Oh, it can be done basically.
I
understand.
I think it can.
But something that span across the different era is that the longer the queue is, the better it is, right?
Yes.
So it's this hype about creating queues.
Just like Hello Kitty and Dear Daniel.
And the bakwa.
I mean, a long time ago we did our bakwa episode. But I remember the Hello Kitty one, people actually break glass doors just to get it.
Huh? Serious?
Yeah, they queue until the glass door broke. But anyway, back to our topic. Let's start with Singapore savings bonds and fixed deposits.
Deposits.
Fixed deposits, yeah. Let's talk about these two. These two are very popular and very often talked about, instruments of investments for people, for people generally. Yeah. So, and recently I think it's come into more people's attention because the interest rate has gone up. Yeah. Care to explain why the interest rate has gone up? Other than the Fed hiking their interest rates, that's obviously we are following the global market trend.
That goes a long way back, right? So it goes to COVID, supply and demand disruption. It goes to Russia and Ukraine. So these are the factors that cause inflation. And historically, there's two ways to fight inflation, or rather, one of the main ways is to increase interest rates. Okay, this is my personal take. It's not easy to fight this inflation with increasing of interest rates. Because the inflation is not caused by the normal kind of inflation in the past. It's caused by COVID, supply and demand disruptions. It's also caused by the war between Ukraine and Russia. So to increase interest rate and to fight it, it may not be the best way, I think. And there's a lot of repercussions that may come along, which is another podcast altogether. So I shall not go further. So essentially this is what happened. Inflation is raging, and the increased interest rates is what US usually does to fight inflation, and therefore mortgage loans interest has also increased, and bank interest has also increased. So this is an upward trend of this.
So I guess what Daniel has shared is really about the external economy, whatever is happening in the global economy. So what all these financial institution is doing is that they are actually in a way borrowing money from investors who is queuing for fixed D, etc. And they will use this money to actually invest into the equity market. So when they can promise this kind of high return like 4%, which attracts people, it also means that the money is being put to better use. So that at the end of the day, the bank institution, like any businesses, they need to make profit. So they're actually quite confident that when they use the money and invest it elsewhere, they can actually make more than 4%. And that's why they can allow to pay 4% to the investors.
The institutions will also, it's like basic business 101. The banks will make the money and they make enough to pay you, and even in the interest rate that they offer, they promise you already.
Correct. So for investors who are not so savvy in managing their own investment, 4% could be a good option for them. But for those like us who do our own investment, we definitely prefer to do it ourselves than to lend money to the bank to do that for us, and giving us a 4% when we are quite confident to do more than that in time to come.
So fixed deposits. And how about Singapore savings bonds? Singapore savings bond is quite like a staple. They offer charges very often, and it's quite present in the conscious of most people. I would say so because recently there's this new emergence of the this instrument called the T-bill. So we'll talk about that later. So T-bill recently is gaining a lot of interest, but we don't really talk about T-bills that often compared to SSB.
Right.
Yeah. So SSB interest rate has gone up. So 10-year tenure.
10-year tenor. So the latest tranche was 10 years. I mean, it's usually 10 years. And then the interest rate is about 3% averagely over the 10 years. The first year interest is about 2.7%. So once you lock in, you get that 2.7%. And if you terminate early, you still get your 2.7%. Prorated, of course. Yeah, so that's the difference between Singapore savings bonds and T-bills. T-bills is locked in for the current tranche is 6 months. So within the 6 months period, you cannot take out your money. You have to keep it until maturity. So there lies the difference between these two in terms of liquidity.
I see.
In terms of subscription, it's also different. So personal experience, I subscribed to the Singapore savings bonds. I put in 50,000. Guess how much they gave me?
How much? 2%?
Because per tranche they have a max amount that people can buy into.
The amount 9,000.
Only 9.
Only
You put in
9,000.
50K,
I put
you
in
only
50.
got
I
9K.
subscribed for 50,000. They only gave me 9,000.
So it's like a balloting thing.
It's a balloting thing. So the lucky ones, I think for that tranche I was subscribed to, they got 9,005, which is not
Lucky.
much difference. $500 more. For T-bills, the amount that you put in is the amount that you will usually get. It doesn't take balloting. So I put in 20,000 and give me 20,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question. Is there any difference between who gives the SSB and the T-bills?
Who?
Yeah, it's still issued by MAS, the government.
Still issued by the government, from my knowledge, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the all these, whether is it T-bill, the Singapore savings bonds, or what's the other one, the fixed D, these are all instruments that we term them as capital preservation. So capital preservation meaning that they are tagged to a certain interest rate and it doesn't get affected by the market movement that much.
Right.
So there are two types of instrument. One is what we call capital preservation. The other is what we call capital growth. So what we mentioned just now about the different instruments is all about the type of instruments as well as the interest rate.
Yeah.
So a lot of times the reason why a lot of our clients, actually not our clients, a lot of our friends out there who invest on their own, the reason why they lose money is that they are chasing after the ROI. So indeed during times like these, when they invest on their own, they look at the news, sharing all the bad news in the market. The equities market has declined 20-30%, and then it's going to be a prolonged recession that's very likely. And then when they open their investment account, it looks like a horror movie that's appearing in front of them. So the more they look, the more it confirms their fear when they look at their investment. And then on the other hand, they are seeing that, fixed T-bills, they're offering 4%, 2%. I think the logical thing to do is actually to move out from the current investments that they have and go into safer instruments like the T-bills.
Almost guaranteed. So.
Yeah. So this is what we say when they are chasing after the ROI. And this can be quite a short-term view because they are only looking at what they have now. On the other hand, what we do for our clients is actually having that financial plan to back them up. So if you have a financial plan and you are blindly chasing after the ROI, it could lead you to liquidate your investment prematurely before you can see the gain, and then go into short-term instruments that give you high return at the beginning, but it may not be sufficient to get you to your financial goals.
I see.
Yeah. So we are not saying that there is no place for capital preservation, but we are talking about how near you are from your financial goals now. Yeah. So if you have a surplus towards your financial goals, I think T-bills could be a very good options, and all these capital preservation instruments could be an excellent option to fit into your financial plan. But if let's say today I am already very far away from my financial goal, I have a lot to catch up. Putting my assets into instruments like this doesn't hedge against my inflation, and it doesn't hedge against my ability to achieve my financial goals. Then it's actually derailing me away from my goal instead of putting me nearer. So ROI, chasing after ROI without understanding where you are today and where you want to be in the future might not be the wisest thing to do at this point in time.
I'm just thinking also with this short-term, with all these short-term instruments, could it also feed into this aspect of instant gratification? Because you can get your ROI back in a very short period of time, but are you really effectively, using the like, what do you call it? What's that word you use? Reinvesting? Yeah, because you are just getting short-term gains, right?
Yes,
You're,
yes.
instant gratification. You might use it for other things instead of reinvesting towards your long-term goals.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So all these short-term high gains as a result of the market movement now, the risk is that 6 months down the road, 1 year, 2 years down the road, there is a risk of reinvestment. So when all this high interest stops, then what is the next thing that we need to do? So it needs to be proper planning. So what we are saying here is that there is this thing called the internal economy, which is our financial plan, versus the external economy, which is whatever is happening in the global. So it's about when you merge the two with a bird's eye view, then it allows you to have better clarity of where you should put your funds to. Yeah.
Bird's eye view.
Yes.
Bird's got a view of us. Yeah. Anything to add, Dan?
I draw a parallel to just now what Xiaoxing mentioned on why the government can give us 4%. So a good parallel would be the CPF, right?
Yeah.
So CPF OA gives us 2.5% and SA gives us 4%.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like guaranteed also, kind of. Yeah, as long as, this one I cannot say. So the question is how can they give us the 2.5% and the 4%? They must make more than that, right? So how can they make more than that? Is a question to be asked, right?
Okay.
I make, let's say, 5%, I give you 2.5%, no problem. But I constantly give you 2.5% and 4%, I'm making less than that, I'm bleeding, right, as a government.
Yeah.
I will not do that. Yeah. So let's go to T-bills and Singapore saving bonds. If I'm giving you, as a consumer, 3 and 4%, I got to ensure that I make more than that because I'm guaranteeing you 4%.
Yeah.
So the question is now when the markets are dropped by 30% generally in the global markets, and let's say I'm an investor, I know that I can make from this an upside of, let's say 10%, don't say a lot, let's say 10%. Then I can give you that 4%, right?
Yeah.
If not, where the money come from? I'm not a magician. Yeah, so to me, this is also a bird's eye view of why they can give us that 4%. Then if they can give me that 4% and they can make the 10%, then why not I make the 10%? Right? Because I'm an investor and I'm a consultant myself.
Right.
So if I can make the 10%, then is it true that it is a possibility to make it easier now? Yes, because the market has dropped by 30%. Right? So it's much easier to make it now than in the past when the markets are reaching high. So given a choice, right, like what Xiaoxing mentioned, it depends on what our goals are. If I'm a retiree, for example, and I've already hit my retirement goal, this 4% is very decent. It's very decent as a capital preservation. But if I'm still maybe 20, 30 years down the road, then I retire.
Like for the retiree, you don't need to take the risk already.
Correct.
A guaranteed return is good enough.
Correct. And let's say I'm 40 years old. I got another 20 years for retirement, and I cannot hit my goal. The 4% compared to the bank is good.
Yeah.
But the 4% compared to Singapore's core inflation now of 7.9%, it's not good. So it's a matter of perspective, right?
Right.
Yeah. So if I'm off my so-called track towards retirement, then maybe I can put a little bit of T-bills just for capital preservation. It's okay. But I should gear all my funds towards getting that 10% and above.
Right. So from what I hear is, we are not saying that SSB, T-bills and fixed D are lousy instruments. They are also very good, and
they are good.
And they actually have their strengths. But what I hear is we're not dissuading you. We are just telling everybody that there is a way to better use these instruments to fit into your plan. Another thing I hear is, do you actually know how much you need to retire? Yeah. So that's a question mark. So if you don't have that end goal in mind, everything else you do in the middle would be like punching in the dark.
Yeah, and plugging the gaps.
And plugging in the gaps. So I think the last thing would be also bird's eye view of your entire internal economy, because you can't control the external economy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, when you look at only the ROI, it's a little bit like when you're standing on level 1, looking at a big lorry in front of you. So it blocks your entire view and you're only chasing after that ROI. But when let's say I bring you up to the 16th floor and you look down, the same lorry now appears very small. That's because you now have a bird's eye view of where your finances is heading. So ROI is just a very small part of your entire financial plan. With the bird's eye view, then it brings you to understand exactly how how much ROI you should be going after, and how do you move your asset to get you to your desired financial
What
goal.
you're going to use the ROI for.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and also with that is also asset allocation. We always, if you pay attention to our podcast, we always talk about a few things. What is the macro view, bird's eye view? What's your internal economy, your goal, at the end goal, and of course the asset allocation, which is diversification, which is what we are very, I would say stringent, but we care very strongly about. Yeah, because it's our core belief when it comes to doing planning for our friends and clients and family.
Yeah, and the other thing is to note is that it doesn't mean that you have retired. That means capital preservation is the way to go. If today I have retired and that I'm barely having enough, it means that I need to make my funds work a lot more than me. The fact about retirement in Singapore is that it means that income stream has stopped coming in. So we are going to ensure that whatever assets that we have accumulated over the past 20, 30 years is going to last us for another 20, 30 years. So in fact, inflation is probably the highest risk when it comes to retirees. And we need to ensure that the sufficient, the assets are able to hedge against inflation to ensure that the living expenses over the next 2 to 3 decades are being taken care of. Yeah.
So throw in, you don't know how long you're going to live for, plus maybe if you're planning for legacy, there are so many other things in the mix that you have to consider.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we have pretty much touched on most of the basics. It's pretty superficial, but I think we probably highlighted what we wanted to highlight to you out there today. And if you're still curious and you're still conflicted as to how to move forward from here, please reach out to any one of us or any one of your friendly consultants, and we are more than happy to sit down and have a coffee with you and to walk you through the entire process.
I have a quote to end off.
Sorry?
I have a quote.
Oh, go for it, Matt.
Everyone wants a good job. So does your money.
Oh. Okay, wow.
So it's our responsibility to find a good job for our money.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Wise words. Good.
谢谢
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for hanging on with us and chilling out with us today. We are very glad to be back again. So remember to click subscribe, turn on your notification, and like, and also share it with all your friends.
Yes.
So see you again next episode.
And happy job hunting for your money.
Oh yes. Let's go.
Let's go. Bye-bye.
Bye.